You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
We are absolutely sure that this song is going to be in the loudest stadium in the world. Come on, guys. It's got to happen. It's got to happen when he walks on the field.
And now it's time for another edition of the 12th Man Fan Jam with your host, the Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Truly international to light our way to the long festivities with a championship lineup of fun and information. We have our news hound. You can find his weekly Seahawk editorial. 12th Man editorials are featured each week on SeahawksSouth.com. You know him as Shadow Hawk on Seahawks.net from the Washington State. We know him as Will.
Good evening, folks. And in the spirit of Sunday's contest, what's your deal?
What is your deal indeed? Let's find out what everybody's deal is tonight. We're going to do a lot of deal digging tonight. Also from the state of Washington and various states of inebriation, our old friend making his third appearance on our show this season. You know him as X-Ray Hawk from SeahawkBlue.com, and we know him as Dustin.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Good to be back.
Or is it Dustin, or is it his brother? We don't know.
It's Dustin this time, but those various states of inebriation, it's usually just one, man. 0 to 60.
0 to 60. Long live the state of inebriation. And tonight, live from the Great White North, we hope. He's no Canadian idiot. My Canadian brother from another mother. He slept in my daughter's bed. You know him as Northern Hawk on the internet. We know him as Andy.
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey,
Andy, how you doing, eh?
I'm doing great. It's go time. It's go time.
It is go time, and you will be going.
I will be going. Yes, tomorrow morning.
What's that all about?
What's that all
about? Watching.
You're a season ticket holder. Where do you live, Andy?
I live in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada.
Home of the Edmonton Eskimos.
Only Warren Moon and his 5 in a row championships. You betcha.
You bet. All right, cool. Well, I know you're interested in going to the NFC Championship Edition show and get it started. So let's run over that format, see how this show is run. The 12th Man Fan Jam is divided into 4 quarters and 2 2-minute warnings, just like a real NFL football game. The first quarter tonight, this evening in the show, will catch us up on all the news that we may have missed because we were chomping at the bit for this Sunday to get here. Second quarter, we'll talk about our playoff victory against the Saints and our predictions and prognostications from last week and how we did. Halftime is the special English rant. That's right, it's an English rant. It's time for Deep Thoughts with Matt. And the third quarter will be a little different with the absence of Statsman Mark. No, he is not captured by the 49er fans this week. No, he is not hostage. However, he will be making a special appearance with his prediction later in the show. But we will be discussing a few stats for the upcoming NFC Championship and saying what we think might be the key for the Seahawks to punch their ticket to New York City. And, of course, our fourth quarter will be spent, as always, with our predictions, prognostications about the upcoming game between your Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, as well as my favorite part of the show that I like to call, Which is Bigger. But before we turn it over to Will, I have a special announcement. We are still asking all of you to participate in voting for our first annual 12th Man Fan Jam season-ending Seahawk Awards show, or the Fan Jammies as we call them around here. All you have to do is let us know who you think deserves the awards listed on your screen right now. Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Assistant Coach of the Year, Seahawk Touchdown of the Year, and Seahawk Game of the Year. How? It's simple. Send us an email to the address on your screen right now, or comment below the video either on the YouTube screen or on the thread that you find this video on. It's just that easy. We'll tally the votes following the Super Bowl and have a special annual 12th Man Fan Jam season-ending Seahawk Award show where the winners will be announced. Fun had by all. So let's get excited. You can also send us emails. Let us know what you think of the show. Please do. Stop and say hi. You like us, you hate us, whatever you want to say. We're not too proud. We won't come haunt you. Ask us what we're wearing. We don't care. All right. Enough of that. We got a lot to talk about. We got a championship game this weekend. We got a trip to the Super Bowl on the line, 60 minutes from the Super Bowl. So let's get started with the show in the first quarter with news. Yes, news around the NFL. Well, you've been too busy out there hating on 49er fans. Our own Shadowhawk knows what you've been missing. Will, what you got for us this evening?
Well, Moses, as hard as it is for Seahawk fans to imagine, there's actually another game taking place on Sunday.
What?
This one between the Patriots and the Broncos. And for you Patriot fans in our audience, I don't know. They will not be playing linebacker Brandon Spikes, who was placed on injured reserve after playing several games with a lingering knee injury. However, there is some little bit of controversy as to why he was placed on injured reserve. It was originally reported that it was a mutual decision. However, reports since then indicate that Spikes was late for a practice during the playoff bye week, and another report said he missed practice altogether. So,
wow.
You're in the playoffs. You really should show up on time.
You think they'd want to show up for playoffs?
Yeah, Belichick isn't a guy you want to test either.
No.
That dude. Their defense is already hurting enough as it is. They've had a couple guys go on IR, and missing another starter, that sucks. But apparently Belichick will do that.
It was ironic because when they listed him as IR, they put knee, but they also put he has no brains. So there's a brain injury there, they think.
Brain cramp.
Whoa,
man,
we got ghosts.
I heard that.
Yeah, I did too. Andy, would you miss an important football game with just showing up?
No, that's brain cramp, man. I mean, you got to give him credit for benching a guy like that. I mean, that's a big piece of defense, obviously. But if you want to be a leader, you got to act like the leader. So definitely, they're sending a message on him.
Yeah, I don't blame him.
No, technically, he didn't miss a game, Dennis. He missed a practice.
That's true. He missed a practice. Thank you. Would you miss a practice going up to a big game? I guess is what I should say. Good point.
Not if Bill Belichick's your coach.
No. Well, not if, I don't know where that'd be excusable. Well, just don't show up. Listen, we got a big game this week, but I feel good about it. Just stay home, rest, kick your feet up, take a rest. No big deal. Mm-hmm. We'll be out here sweating. What else you got, Will?
Well, Dennis, the last time we saw Matt Leinart, he was, actually, what was he doing? I have no idea.
You know what? I think he was bagging my groceries over here. I think I saw him parking cars.
Doing body shots off of co-eds.
Oh, that's what he was doing.
Well, I know which I'd rather be doing, but
you really you really like groceries, don't you?
Well, naturally. But
I know how you are.
Anyway, Ken Whisenhunt was hired as the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans, and Matt Leinart was not a fan. To quote Leinart, I don't think it's a great fit, and I don't think it's good timing, and here's why. You look at his tenure in Arizona, only 2 years he had success, and in those 2 years, Kurt Warner ran that football team. I was a part of it. Technically, yes. Every single Monday, Kurt Warner would come in and implement 20 to 30 new plays in which he would say, I want these in my game plan. Then Kurt Warner retires. They go 5-11 twice, and they go 8-8. Asked directly if he likes Whisenhunt, Leinart laughed incredulously and answered, do I like Whisenhunt? So probably no. But I'm not so sure that Matt Leinart is the best person to ask here.
No, probably not.
No.
That doesn't surprise me.
Well, it's not something that really. I don't think that Matt Leinart is one to really make some decisions on who's really good and who's really not. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but like you said, he was bagging groceries or parking cars, and now all of a sudden, well, I don't think this guy's a winner. Well, Matt, why don't you check your own credentials? Speaking of
the whole reason Kurt Warner was calling on the plays is because Matt Leinart couldn't cut it.
Hey, speaking of checking your credentials and a Matt checking credentials, I think we have another person join the posse. Could it be? Is it possible that, yes, I believe it is, our own Matt from England? The kids love you, Matt.
Yes. Hello. Good morning, everybody. How are we all?
Matt, we're great, man. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit tired, but we're okay. We're getting through it.
Well, good.
You know, the whole fashionably late thing can be overdone, Matt.
Well, we've got parties to go to, people to see, people to do. It's very busy,
People to see and people to do. I understand.
Mhm.
Well, welcome to the show, English Matt.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We were just finishing up the news. Will's got another wonderful story.
Oh, no. I always miss the best bits.
Yeah, it's all right. We'll fill you in later.
Okay, cool. That's a promise.
Magic, I can just put you in like you were never gone. I've got all this extra audio I'll just put it in like you were here the whole time.
Awesome.
Will, your final story for the evening?
Well, one of the biggest mysteries of divisional round playoffs was not solved. Mainly, what did Peyton Manning mean when he kept saying Omaha virtually every play? Manning himself was fairly evasive when asked about it for obvious reasons. And according to former teammates, it means something different depending on the game, the situation, and the team. But it's going to mean a lot to at-risk youth in the Nebraska area because 5 Nebraska businesses have combined to donate $500 to Manning's Foundation for at-risk youth every time he says Omaha during Sunday's AFC Championship game against the Patriots.
That's awesome. And it's irony because I believe in a related note, do we have possibly our first tweet from Mike Silver? Mike Silver is going to give us a sudden tweet. An unnamed source has told Mike Silver that in a related note, Kaepernick is going to donate $500 to the Seattle Children's Hospital every time he looks confused. They'll build a whole new wing.
Those kids won't be lacking for treatment.
No, whole new wing.
Just as well he's not giving 500 every time that he kisses his bicep on Sunday, because that's not going to happen very much.
No, he'll be owing money on that one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we won't be doing that. Yeah, I don't know if you got the exact quote from Peyton Manning. I heard it on the way to work this morning. It was hysterical. His quote about Omaha was something like this. He said, it could be. He said it's usually a run or a pass or a play action pass. And you know how dry he is, and everyone's laughing. He goes, and it's based on the score, the time of the game, which direction we're going, and what uniforms we have on. Which I thought was pretty good. I apparently wasn't that funny. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. I wonder what.
I'm kind of surprised it's coming to focus so much right now because he's been doing that as long as I can remember.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think Jeff Saturday said on the show one time that Omaha means on one. And that's a center from the Colts for how many years? And he said, Omaha means on one. And if you notice, he says Omaha, ready, set, and they go.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. But then I know Jaworski said Omaha when he played meant off. Like, no, we're going to kill the play. I don't know why he just doesn't say on one, because if they know Omaha's on one, I mean, what's the point?
It's the end of the first quarter, bitches.
And that's the end of the first quarter. Enough of the news. We're going to move on and talk about some Seahawk football next quarter, starting with last week's game, a little good, bad, and ugly when we get back. I remind you that you are listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam, where we're going to stop for the station identification.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Championship.
And now it's time for the second quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. In the second quarter, we will be discussing the good, we will be discussing the bad, and we will be discussing the ugly of last week's game. Here to take you through the second quarter is once again our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Thank you once again, Magic Voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam. It is time for the second quarter, and a little thing we like to do, the good, bad, and ugly. We like to look at the game from last week, our victory 23-15 over the New Orleans Saints that propelled us into the NFC Championship, which is just 60 minutes away from Super Bowl in New York City. So we like to do the good, bad, and the ugly. Or in Jersey. Technically in Jersey. That's very true. New York, New Jersey. I don't know. All their New York teams play in New Jersey. So you figure it out. We're going to do the good, bad.
All those East Coast states look the same.
That they do. They all look the same. Dustin's going to start with the good. Dustin, what good came out of the game last week?
I'm going to say the running game was probably the best thing that came out of it besides the win. Lynch had 140 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns. He was looking good. He was looking beastly. So that was something that was much needed, and it was great to see.
It definitely was. I agree with that. In a game where they knew that we were going to have to run, he got 140 yards.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty amazing. Pretty nice when you have. We forget that Marshawn Lynch before Russell Wilson. That offseason, we were talking about how Marshawn Lynch is the center of this offense, and we kind of forget that because Russell comes in and plays so well. But Marshawn Lynch certainly is the man in many ways. What other good did you guys see that we're not talking about?
I think the 12th man was was probably the best I think that they've been. I know we're always good, but I thought, quite frankly, we were fantastic on not just at the point of the play, but also at the points before the play when they were talking about it. Because obviously, as we mentioned last week, the Saints have a funny and unique way of getting to the line and getting their calls given to them. And I think we did very well. I think we're really good at being loud at the right moments.
Dustin or Andy, were either of you at the game? I know Will.
Well, I was there.
So, what was your view on the crowd, Andy?
Crowd was phenomenal. Considering it was wet, it was cold, it was windy. It wasn't a real nice day to be outside in the elements for sure. But 12th man was incredibly loud. My ears were ringing on fire a few times for sure.
Awesome, Dustin. Were you there?
I was there.
What was your view on the crowd?
There's a lot of energy. It wasn't the loudest I've heard it. I don't think it was the loudest I've heard it this year, even, to be honest with you. I think probably the season opener versus San Francisco was louder, but you could feel the energy, and people were bringing it the best they could. The weather was nasty. It was hard to deal with, but they were doing their thing.
Cool. Will, what are your thoughts on the crowd noise?
I thought they did a great job. Like Dustin was saying, I don't think it was a record-breaking performance, but we've already done that twice this year.
Right.
Nothing left to prove. But yeah, definitely made life miserable, and I expect the crowd is going to be in full throat this Sunday,
especially against the 49ers. I agree. That was good. I thought the defense played very well. Shut out the Saints for 3 quarters, even though you could say some of that may have been helped with Mother Nature, but I disagree. I think they played very tough for a good 3.5 quarters, really. Shutting out a very potent offense attack, even in that weather. The Saints are nothing to be trifled with offensively. Will has the bad. Will, what kind of bad did we get from this game against the Saints?
Well, just so many missed opportunities, and really on both sides of the ball. I mean, as well as our defense was playing, there were about 2-3 interceptions that we could have had that were dropped. And then on offense, in the first half, 4 out of our 5 drives resulted in points, but 3 of those resulted in field goals instead of touchdowns.
Right.
And it's the kind of thing where, 3 points is better than none, but we could have had that game. That game could have been over by halftime.
Yes.
And we're gonna need to do better this Sunday.
I remember thinking I just wanted one more. It was 16-0. And really, the 2-point conversion to me was a huge factor in this game because without the 2-point conversion, they're 3 scores behind. And I think they changed the way they played. But because they were still technically only 2 scores behind, they could very much stay to their game plan and they didn't have to panic. And I don't think they did. And I kept thinking if we could just get one more score to make it more than 2 scores, then this thing's over. And we just couldn't get it done. Couldn't get a first down generated. Couldn't get anything done. And they played outstanding defense, to give them some credit. But our offense, up 16-0, just couldn't get to that next step. Andy, how did you feel about any bad?
I kind of agree with what you're saying there. For me, 9 of 18 for Russell Wilson. We're definitely going to have to be a little bit better than that this weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, I take into consideration the weather, and it's not a nice day to be throwing the ball around with that wind blowing. I don't know how windy it looked on TV, but it seemed to be pretty breezy in the stadium. So
yeah.
That to me was bad. Considering they missed a couple field goals, the game was closer than I think a lot of us gave credit for. So,
Yeah.
We definitely they stuck to their game plan, which was fortunate for us. But lots of areas for improvement for this weekend, though.
Absolutely. Did we miss anything else, Dustin and Matt?
The bad? No, Harvin injury was bad.
Yes.
Yeah, that concussion was unfortunate.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and that has a carry over to this game too. So that was definitely a bad thing.
Yes, that was a bad thing.
But his hip held up.
Yeah.
Progress, right?
Yeah.
Thank God for that, at least.
Yeah.
Which brings us to Matt. Hey, Matt, you're ugly.
Yes. Well, both. I suppose the ones that I want to pick out as ugly. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The ones that I want to pick out as ugly really, and both involve the same player, which is the Saints wide receiver Colston, because the onside kick we screwed that up. Well, Golden Tate had a I don't know whether it bounced badly for him or something, but whatever it was, it sort of popped in and popped out again, and they managed to recover the onside kick. But then really the other ugly thing was that ridiculous illegal forward pass with 2 seconds to go, which it wasn't ugly. I mean, it wasn't ugly from our point of view because it ended the game. But I sat there looking at it and I thought, what the hell are you doing, you idiot? I don't know what the coaches must have just been livid because there was at least, there was 2 seconds or 4 seconds still on the clock, something like that. Yeah. Perfect time for a Hail Mary. Drew Brees, you've got the quarterback that can actually do that Hail Mary pass as well. And Colston just does the most ridiculous thing. And for some reason throws it forward. So well done him. He gets my player of the game there, right there.
Well,
brilliant.
I must be, I don't know, maybe I'm in the minority here, but even though, they were only 8 points down, when Marshawn scored, made it 23-8 with 2 minutes 40 seconds to go or something like that, I called it. I said, that's it. And even when they came down and scored, and even when they recovered the onside kick, and even when they got down to that last play with 10 seconds to go before I hiked the ball, I'm thinking they've got to score, and then they've got to do the 2-point conversion, and then that's just the tie. So they would have to do all this and then take the opening, kickoff of overtime, score not a field goal but a touchdown, and then at that point, I mean, shoot, go buy your lottery tickets. New Orleans is the way I felt. I just never, I didn't panic even when Tate didn't recover the onside kick. I thought they're not going to do this. They need 8 points. It's not like they need 2. Mm-hmm. I just never panicked. I don't know if anybody of you guys felt that way, but I just sat there.
It's just weird.
It was weird. It was
weird. It was a weird thing to do. And the other ugly was
certainly didn't feel like. Go ahead.
I was going to say the other ugly was when the Legion of Boom collided with itself and boomed itself out of an interception.
Which would have
which they did the other week as well in the end zone. Yes. Do you remember there was 3 of them that came together and the whole thing just was like a cartoon,
Yes.
And this happened again this time. So I just think somebody needs to get a little bit of spatial awareness that they need to learn that sort of sportsman moment where they say, actually, I'm pretty sure Earl Thomas is underneath this, or I'm pretty sure that Richard Sherman's in the vicinity. But this sort of
somebody needs to tell those guys that putting your heads together is just an expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Works for me.
Yeah, Dustin, did you have something you want to
add? Really, for me, the ugliest thing about the whole thing, to be honest with you, was the weather. And it started early and it continued on. We're out tailgating beforehand, and it was good early, but then early hours, like 8, 9 o'clock. But man, when it started raining, it started pouring. I remember at one point, once everybody was all tuned up and having fun and stuff, one of the songs from Macklemore came on, the Ceiling Can't Hold Us or whatever, and everybody's dancing and singing and having a good old time. Then it started hailing, and everybody started cheering when the hail started coming down on everybody. And it was because, I guarantee you, it was because everybody had the same thought I did. It was like, there is no way Drew Brees can play in this crap.
Right.
And man, it was so windy and cold and nasty out there. I felt, I'm glad I wasn't on the field for that, because that would have been rough.
Andy, have all your clothes dried?
Yeah, all my clothes are dried. I had to do 2 loads of laundry, but yeah, it was nasty and wet and cold.
It was.
Dennis, Moses.
Yes, sir.
Kind of a fun story. A bunch of us, including Andy, were going to take a limo from Mr. and Mrs. Seahawks' house to and from the game.
Yeah.
Well, the limo company screwed up. They lost our lost our reservation. So we're standing out there figuring out what to do. And at one point, standing outside figuring out what to do. And then all of a sudden, it starts hailing. And we just get the feeling, it's like, okay, is this not going to be our day? So Dustin talking about the hail just reminded me of that really quick.
Yes.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and I know Kiltman's wig, I know he has a hard time with it getting wet.
Yeah.
So I know.
Imagine.
Yeah, he's got that wig. It gets wet and it gets nasty.
I had to sit behind that wig for a little while. It was quite funny, really. I almost wanted to, like, you know, sort of peer through and see if there was some sort of like safari animal in there or something. Ridiculous. I couldn't see a damn thing. This is before when everyone stood up, obviously. But we were there sitting down. I thought, well, I'm glad we're going to be standing up because there's no way I'm going to watch a game peering through this bloody thing. Terrible split ends.
Terrible split ends. Yeah.
Holy shit, it's a 2-minute warning.
Well, it's time for our 2-minute warning. And in a 2-minute warning, we usually look back on our predictions and prognostications from last week and see how we did. And we also see how we did on our favorite Which is Bigger part of the show. Last week, as you see our predictions up on the screen, Matt had said 13-10. Mark had said 37-20. Will had said 27-17. I had said 27-10. And daggone it, when he scored a touchdown, when Lynch scored a touchdown to make it 23-8, I was feeling pretty good. And then everything changed. So with 23-15, the score, I think Will gets our score for the week. Congratulations, Will. And
well done, Will.
And for that, you get yourself.
I had to get something.
You get yourself a San Francisco 49er pacifier so that you can calm even
Jim Harbaugh version?
Yes, the special extra large Jim Harbaugh version that sucks more than any pacifier you've ever seen. So congratulations, Will. Well done, Will.
Thank you.
And for our prognostications, Matt had Lynch for 110 yards and a touchdown. Mark had Malcolm Smith for an interception. Will had Wagner for a pick six, and I said Percy Harvin would have 2 TDs. I will never mention Percy Harvin in my prognostications again to save his injuries. But Lynch with 140 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think Matt gets that one. Matt, congratulations. You get yourself the home game of the 12th Man Fan Jam, which is a broken headset. I'll send that to you soon.
Thank you very much. You know, I didn't even watch the game. I was out, and I have a tradition of not watching playoff games, so I didn't watch the game at all. But that was the only stat I was interested in after I saw the scores, and obviously knowing that we'd won, I was like, no, how far did Lynch run?
That's a good tradition. Are you going to be sure to be gone this Sunday?
This isn't a playoff game for me. I did watch the last one and we did win, so I have no reason not to watch this game this week. Okay. But every playoff game apart from the Falcons game, I've missed, and of course I watched the playoff against the Falcons and we lost. So it's sort of it's a weird when it doesn't work type moment for me. So I shan't be watching any more playoff games for us.
Okay, so you're not watching this.
It's only weird if it doesn't work.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Well, and I had some people here to watch the game, and they're coming back this week, and I've left everything in the living room exactly as it is. And tomorrow I'm buying the exact same food I bought last week. So, I'm with you on that stuff. Not that I think it has any bearing on whether they win or lose, but, it's just a tradition. Speaking of traditions,
I said don't eat the cheese he left out all week, though.
Oh, no. No, I'm getting a whole new bunch of cheese. It's going to be good stuff.
Holy shit, it's halftime.
And that is the end of the second quarter. We're about to head into halftime. We will meet you on the second half. We're going to go in the locker room, make some changes, make some adjustments, come out in the second half, and we're going to talk a lot about this upcoming NFC Championship game between your Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers.
Hey, this is Matt, all the way from merry old England, and you're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam.
And now, Deep Thoughts by
Matthew?
Yes, thanks. I seem to have managed to steal the halftime show this week, folks, so I wanted to take this time to chat with you about Roger Goodell and the NFL ambitions to have an international team here in London. Now, yes, I'm British, and yes, I am an American football fan, but at no stage have I ever called for or wanted our own team here in London. Indeed, I can't think of a single British American football fan that I've spoken to about it that has called out for one. But Goodell and the NFL seems insistent that this must happen, and the Jacksonville Jaguars seem to be his franchise of choice. Now, I can see three things wrong with this. Firstly, there will be 0 British players in this franchise. 0 British coaches, 0 British trainers, and that's a problem. Britain loves its sport, and Britain loves American football. But we do not have a university or college base to feed players into the draft. They're just too busy playing cricket, rugby or soccer. And that lack of a British identity will impact upon this franchise. It will need its own unique brand of Britishness to embed itself into the psyche and sporting psyche of this country. Now, I'm not sure where that will come from when the entire team and its coaches and probably its owners will be implanted from the United States. Secondly, we the fans over here in Great Britain have already picked our teams. Seriously, I'm not kidding. I am a Seattle Seahawks fan. I'm loud and I'm proud, and I've travelled to Seattle twice. I've travelled to San Francisco for a game of football. I love my team, and I love the fellow 12 fans. So the chances of me dropping all of this to become a London Jaguars fan are 0. It ain't gonna happen. Ever. Period. And that's true of all the other British fans of any US team that are just as loud, if not quite as loud as us, but certainly as proud. Now, if this team in London was in a Euro League, playing a French team or a German team or an Italian team, then sure, I'd support them. Why not? They're never going to play my team. My team will be the Seattle Seahawks. They'll never come together and play a game. But if this team was to be in the NFL and play my Seattle Seahawks, then hell no! That team is an opposing team, and as far as I'm concerned, it's just gotta lose. The third problem I see is time zones. Now, as a British fan, from August to February, I have trained my body and my brain to ignore time. Seriously, I'm not even kidding. I stay awake for Monday night footballs or Thursday night football matches, which sometimes can last until 4 or 5 a.m. here in the UK, and still get up for work in 2 hours' time. So for me, time zones aren't a problem. It's about an 8-hour time difference between Seattle and London, so even now as I'm recording this, it may be 8 p.m. Seattle time, but it's 4 a.m. here in London. It's probably why I'm so grumpy all the time, to be honest. But teams flying to London will lose a whole day. It's just what happens. It's just geography. Now for the one-off international games, well, that's probably not too bad. You'll barely notice it. But it will impact upon the players of the London franchise, who for 8 games of a season will have to fly across to the States, play a game of football, and then fly back. And that jet lag, 8 times, is going to have an effect upon their play. And no amount of NFL money is going to take that disadvantage away from them. I think what Goodell is trying to do is probably right. He's trying to expand the game into new areas and increase the interest in this amazing and entertaining sport, as well as obviously increasing the coffers of the NFL at the same time. But to be honest, I think he needs to spend a little more time getting the game right first. The rules, some of which he's introduced himself, probably need to be looked at, but more importantly for me, he needs to get the officiating right. Some of the referee decisions are just awful, and that needs to be fixed before he tries to do anything with this sport internationally. And when he does decide the time is right, then he needs to start from the ground up. He needs to build college teams, get interest from the big universities over here in the UK. He needs to offer scholarships for guys to play the game as they learn. And this collegiate system will need a good number of years to grow and bed in to be successful. The breaking point will come when there is a draft and one of the first round picks to any team in the NFL goes to a British-born, British-educated, British-trained football player. Then, and only then, will the time be right for the NFL to even think or consider about having a team here in London. Well, those are my thoughts. If you disagree or you want to make a comment, please use the email address or leave a comment on the thread where you saw the posting or on YouTube, or you can tweet me. My Twitter address is @MattWar, that's @MattWar, MattWoor. I'm going to hand you back now over to Dennis as we go on with the third quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Championship. It's the third quarter, bitches.
Yes, welcome to the third quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. This is the time where usually Statsman Mark reads his stats, but unfortunately he could not be with us this evening. However, we do have quite a formidable 12th Man Fan Jam posse with us. And we're going to go through some stats and talk about the upcoming game between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, because you haven't heard enough this week from all the talking heads about how amazing this game's going to be. So before we get there, Dustin has something he'd like to share. Dustin, you found a letter?
I did find a letter. It's from a 49ers executive who worked under Eddie DeBartolo and Bill Walsh and helped make the 49ers what they were back when those guys were there. His name is Carmen Policy. Sent a letter out to the Bay Area newspapers that they published today. And this is what it says. It says, "Dear friends in beautiful Seattle, we are quite certain that your valiant efforts will be appreciated by fans throughout America as you fall just one game short of going to the Super Bowl in the Big Apple. Please note that as the final whistle blows on Sunday and the Niners have become this year's NFC champions, that much of the Napa Valley and San Francisco Bay Area will be lifting a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon as a toast to your memorable but terminated season. Good luck next year, and please consider visiting us this summer so that we can talk about the 49ers victory in New York and a 6th Lombardi trophy on their shelf. Submitted with love and respect, Carmen."
Wow, I don't know if it was exactly submitted with any respect.
You know, he's trash talking. The players are trash talking. There's a lot of fear in San Francisco right now, and the bravado isn't hiding it.
Exactly. It seems everyone does most of the talking, has the most to hide, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy from an organization from a time that they used to be classy.
Here's the one thing I can say about that letter that I kind of appreciate is the wording at the end there, where he says the 49ers put their 6th trophy on the shelf, because he was there for the first 5, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Most of the team there was not. Those players, they don't have 5 rings. The fans that keep whining about it, they don't have 5 rings. The players that were there a long time ago and the guys that were there a long time ago in the front offices, they're the ones with the rings. They're the ones that did all that. Everybody else just gets to walk in the same building. And well, actually, that's not even true anymore either, because they're blowing that thing up. So
that's the lamest argument ever, to say, well, because when was their last win?
94, I believe, against San Diego.
Yeah,
20 years.
Yeah, it's been 20 years, and yet, well, we've got rings, do you? Well, okay, how many rings do your players have? Because I don't think they have any.
Yeah, seriously, Moses, listening to a 49er fan brag about their 5 rings is like listening to somebody brag about all the girlfriends he had back in high school before he goes home to his 1-bedroom apartment and watching, eating top ramen and watching midget porn.
That's exactly what it is. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I kind of respect that analogy a lot. That's a good analogy, because I mean, it's ridiculous. That's the lamest argument I've heard. Well, we have rings. No, you don't. I mean, your organization does from 20 years ago. And
maybe your parents.
Oh, we're not the only ones that hate the Niners, right? Even the city of San Francisco hates them enough to kick them out of town. So.
Yeah. The Santa Clara 49ers. But
there you go.
I get tired of hearing fans brag about a championship they haven't won since Hootie and the Blowfish was popular.
Nice.
Hootie and the Blowfish. There's a blast from the past.
I like that kicking them out reference, especially because it's been, 20 years since they've had a championship. So it's about time they moved out of the house.
Yeah. Go get a real job.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me that there's a Cowboys joke. I know that's way off topic. There's a Cowboys joke that's similar to that. It got elevated to where people are saying it's God's team. And they're saying that even God got tired of his team. So when they built the new stadium, he told them to put a roof on it so he didn't have to watch.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. It's been crazy, and people have been trashed. How what's funny is during the whole season, 49er fans and Seahawk fans have just been trash talking each other all year, even when they weren't playing each other. Even if it was a bye week, it didn't matter. It was just, it's been building up for this all year. And like I said, the day after the Super Bowl, from the day after the Super Bowl, the 49er fans and Seahawk fans looked at each other and said, it's war. And it's now built exactly the way we thought it would go. Someone was going to host the championship and the other team was going to be there. And that's exactly the way it should be. And that's what we've got. So, and I'm glad, I'm glad my team's part of it. I'm glad that we are part of that rivalry. And it's a great rivalry. Yes.
Moses, sorry to interrupt, but I just saw we have some breaking news from NFL.com's Mike Silver.
A breaking report from NFL.com's Mike Silver.
According to Mike Silver's unnamed source, Walmart will begin launching a Jim Harbaugh designed line of pleated khakis this year, selling for $8 a piece.
That's awesome.
Now on sale for $500.
Yep.
I love that his wife called in
to
and
see that
complained
post.
about his pants. I love that. His wife called in and complained about how he dresses and how she has nothing to do with it. That was hilarious. I don't know if you guys heard about that or not.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, his wife called into a Bay Area show talking about how she doesn't really like the way he dresses, and she takes no credit for that. It's not her fault.
Wow.
Nice.
There's a lot of love in that room.
Yeah, when you have your wife publicly disavowing your wardrobe, there's some issues there.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Can you imagine how affectionate that family is?
Oh man!
Wow! Can you imagine being in the Harbaugh household?
I'd rather not.
Yeah. So I said I love you. Shut up.
She says I love you. One of them, the other one says, "What's your deal?"
Yeah, I love you. What's your deal? I love bashing the 49ers. Really,
going back to you're talking about that rivalry. There was a caller earlier this week on one of the local radio shows who he was a Seahawks fan. His fiance was a 49ers fan, and they actually broke up this week. They called off the engagement, and he was moving his stuff out.
Wow.
Oh, yeah, he could do better.
Wow. Wait, he can do better.
That's how bad it gets.
Well, that's too bad because she sucks.
Oh. Okay, I think Andy just won the podcast right there.
Yes. Good night, everybody. Podcast are rolling. We're done.
Art Carney, Eula McRae. Good night, everybody.
We're leaving right there. Just if you're listening, you can just stop right now because we're not going to get better than that right there.
It's not going to get any better.
Oh my God, Andy shoots and scores. Well, you've probably been beaten to death about stats all week about this game, so we'll make it short and sweet this third quarter. There's only really a couple of things I wanted to share about the stats. Of course, they're so evenly matched on offense and defense, really. There are a couple interesting stats that really aren't related to the teams, but are related to the Seahawks and are kind of positive. And the first one is this. There are 4 teams in NFL history that have led the league in pass defense and led the NFL in interceptions the same year. The Seahawks are one of those teams. The other 3 teams made it to the Super Bowl. So I think that's pretty exciting. Dustin, how do you feel about that?
I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Anytime the Seahawks get mentioned with a team that's gone on to the Super Bowl and I assume they won it, that's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I would like to see that trend continued.
I'm not sure about the record, but it is a pretty beautiful thing. And the other thing is this, the Seahawks at home, the average score is 28-12. They only give up a little bit over 12 points a game, and they're scoring over 28 points a game. And I think that's significant for the coming up in this game coming up because the 49ers and the Seahawks on paper and as an organization, they built themselves in the draft. They both have done it the right way, and they have good young talent, and they're pretty even if you look at them on paper. If you're not a 49er or a Seahawk fan, I think you look at this game and say, if it's on a neutral site, you play that thing 10 times, it's probably 5-5. but it's not on a neutral site. It's in Seattle.
Fife and Fife. They'll play in Fife.
Go play in Fife. That's where they'll be headed. Where the stupid scoreboard, the stupid billboard is telling us how many rings they have from 20 years ago.
But yeah, it's in Seattle, and we earned it. You know, we went through a tough regular season. We didn't have Percy Harvin. We didn't have Sidney Rice for a good chunk of it. We didn't have our starting tackles for a chunk of it. That's why everybody talking about the 49ers now saying, oh, well, their earlier struggles are because they didn't have Michael Crabtree. That was one player. How many guys have we missed all year or most of the year or a good chunk of the year, and we still finished a game ahead of them?
That is so completely true.
Thought just crossed my mind when you said that. Think about this. I'm pretty sure Sidney Rice played more this year than Percy Harvin.
Oh, I know he did. Yeah.
That is
about that.
Ridiculously crazy. And he's supposed to be the big guy that puts us over the top. And we still won the division and are still in this game without both those guys, basically.
Will, you had kind of touched on your editorial about the importance of Percy Harvin. You kind of want to sum that up a little bit?
Well, just saying that if you look at the difference between the offense in the first and the second halves, we were still struggling in the red zone, but we were moving the ball and doing a good job of it. And then in the second half, things kind of shut down, and that was partly to do with the weather. It was still pretty bad in the third quarter, but just having that guy who defenses have to respect, and the one good thing about Harvin not playing is he hasn't been able to practice all week. You know, last week's game plan was centered around Percy Harvin, and then when he went out, it's like, oh, now what do we do?
Right.
This week's game plan, for obvious reasons, will not be centered around Percy Harvin. So I'm hoping, you know, they're going to have to do something to get a little separation for the receivers. Bevel and Carroll and all those guys are going to have to put in some serious time and thought and creativity into this game plan. But it can be done.
It can be done. Andy, give me one key to this game. One key to getting Seattle to the Super Bowl in 60 minutes.
Mistakes. I think we really need to cut down on mistakes, whether it's two defenders chasing after the same ball and smacking into each other and the ball falls to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Ball security, we need to hang on to the ball. So losing the ball is a mistake. So it's still one key. For me, that's a big one. If we can come out and play a good, clean Seahawks football, maybe cut down on some of those pre-snap penalties that drive people nuts. I like our chances. It's not going to be easy, but I like our chances.
I do too, Dustin. Give me one key to this game.
It's going to be defensive gap integrity. That's what it has to be. Because every time you play those guys, they make a big play. It's because something's over pursued, somebody's not minding their gap, and Frank Gore busts off a big run. I mean, that happens a lot. So if everybody just minds their gap, does what they're supposed to do, don't try and do too much, trust in your teammates, I think we'll be just fine.
Mm-hmm. All right. Will, what do you have for a key?
Well, I think one key is we're going to have to keep the pressure up on Colin Kaepernick. I've been listening a lot. John Clayton does a spot on one of the local radio shows every day at 4:00. And he's been saying all week now that the difference in the game will be Colin Kaepernick making a mistake in the fourth quarter because it's so loud, because it's such a difficult environment. And I think the Seahawks defense needs to do everything in their power to make things even more difficult for him. And I believe if we do that, the fans are just going to be ridiculously loud. Mm-hmm. All of that is going to contribute. He's going to make some mistakes, and then we got to capitalize on him.
Yeah, for me, it's very Kaepernick based as well. On third down, if they're at a 3rd and 4 or less more often than they're at a 3rd and 5 or more, that's not good for us because I think he can scramble, obviously, but he can get 3 or 4 or 5 yards, and that's not good for us. I think where we have them on third down, and obviously, if we win the third down, we win the game. Of course, that makes sense. But you got to keep him out of 3rd and short. Keep it out where he can't scramble 2 or 3 yards and be close to a first down where he can dive forward and get it. That's the problem I see.
That's part of the gap integrity I was talking about, though.
It is.
Because you have to have guys monitor their gaps. And then somebody has to set the edge. You can't allow them to get outside.
Oh,
if
cannot
you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You take care of your job, do what you're supposed to do, that problem's eliminated automatically.
Yep.
And that's how Green Bay lost the wild card game, was in the critical play on the last drive. Their cornerback blitz lost contain. Kaepernick got around him, got the first down. They were able to run the clock out and kick the field goal. So you can't make mistakes like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think they will. But that being said,
It's the end of the third quarter, bitches.
I believe we're the end of the third quarter. We're going to come back to the fourth quarter, make our predictions, our prognostications, and play my favorite game, which I know is Andy's too, which is bigger. Oh, yeah. Get excited for that, Andy. With our stats man, Mark. Mark was unable to attend the show because of a prior engagement, but he did want to share his thoughts on the NFC Championship and his score and his prediction and prognostication. Mark, what do you got for us?
Yes, hey guys, this is Mark, the stats man, reporting 15 minutes southwest of the 49ers' new stadium, and there are places I'd rather be. Let's see here. So, thoughts on the game. After watching the 49ers' first two playoff games, their numbers overall aren't terribly impressive. I think, what's really going to be key for Seattle, of course, is getting the passing game going and the offensive line stepping up and giving Wilson, longer than 2 seconds to throw. The 49ers, real quick, do have 9 sacks over the first 2 playoff games they've played. And they also have 5 quarters in which they've shut out the opponent from scoring. So their defense is playing pretty well. Offensively, they're just really getting it done. For Seattle, they recorded 1 sack against the Saints. They gave up 3. The offensive line gave up 3. So the key for me is pass protection up front and Wilson getting into a rhythm and throwing, I think, for 200 yards or more and a couple touchdowns. I see this game as 31-20 Seahawks. I think we get it done. I think we get a couple turnovers against Kaepernick, creating a couple short fields for our offense so they don't have to drive 80 yards. And the 12th man and home field, I think, are going to kick in. So 31-20 Seahawks. My player of the game is going to be who else? Russell Wilson. 2 touchdowns passing for him. And I like our odds in going to New York to play the, let's say the Broncos in the Super Bowl. And that's it for me.
You're listening to the 12th Man Fan Jam on the Seahawk Positivity YouTube channel.
Go Hawks. 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 Go Hawks.
And now it's time for the fourth quarter of the 12th Man Fan Jam. Here to lead us through the final quarter is once again our host, the self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Allen Church of Seahawk Positivity.
Thank you once again, Magic Voice of the 12th Man Fan Jam. This is the fourth quarter of the NFC Championship version of the 12th Man Fan Jam, where we bring you our predictions, our prognostications, and we play which is bigger. And we will start the festivities with our guests. Our guest from the Great White North, Andy.
Hi.
Andy, my friend, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Nervous.
Good. How's the Canadian bacon tonight? Is it good?
It's sizzling.
It's sizzling, just like you.
Absolutely.
Are you listening to Rush right now?
Yes, and Brian Adams.
And Anne Murray.
Oh, always.
People don't know this, but Andy and I went to a game in Seattle one time, and I gave him an autographed picture of Anne Murray. Do you still have that?
It's hanging above my bed.
Oh, that's awesome. Andy, you got a score?
I think I'm going to go with 27-17 Seahawks, of course.
Oh, okay. And your prognostication?
Well, I think this is going to be a smash mouth game. It's going to be dirty. there's going to be a ton of penalties. I'm thinking like Rams game on the 29th. That kind of lots of plays after the whistle.
Yeah.
Lots of referees getting in the way. But I'm looking at Marshawn Lynch to have another fantastic game. He's obviously the center of our offense. Our defense is going to be our defense. I'm pretty. That's the most confident I am. Is our defense is going to be our defense.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at Zach Miller to maybe bust out here a little bit and get a few more catches this week.
Okay, how many catches you looking for, Zach?
I'm looking for Zach. I'm looking for let's go 6 catches.
Okay.
For 80 yards.
Ooh, 6 catches, 80 yards. I like it. He's been kind of missing in action, and I think that's important. It's an important part of the. And I think, Will, you had written that in your editorial. They need to find him, right?
Well, yeah, and you look at how important he was in the playoffs last year, and I think if we can get him going this year, it'd be a big help.
Yeah, I agree. Dustin.
Yep.
You got a score for us and a prognostication?
I do. I'm going to go a little bit different on the score than most people. A lot of people are calling for it to be close, but I think it's going to be more like 27-10 Seahawks.
Okay. I like that.
And here's why. I think that this might be a little insensitive to some people, but I want to say that all the noise that's made in the stadium, everything that's made about the beast quake and the subsequent other earthquakes that they measure for now, I think the fan quakes are going to cause a Seahawks tsunami that's going to leave the 49ers sideline waiting for Red Cross relief.
Amen.
I love it.
So what I think is going to happen in prognostication-wise, Michael Crabtree earlier this week said Richard Sherman, he didn't think he was the best corner in the league.
Yeah.
So I think what's going to happen is Richard's going to get 2 picks while guarding Crabtree.
Ooh.
Nice.
On Crabtree.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I didn't mention in my stats, too, that people had not noticed that made me feel better about the game is San Francisco. And if you watch the Panther game, you notice this. They have the second most delay of games in the NFL. And they have a tendency, I know that one drive in Carolina, I want to say it was the first or third quarter. It was early in the half. They used 2 timeouts in one drive.
Yeah, the false starts are counted, and everybody knows false starts, and everybody loves them. Yeah. But that crowd is football savvy enough to recognize when they also cause a delay of game.
Oh, yeah.
And that also gets them amped up and going. So
or a timeout.
Yep.
Or a timeout, yeah. Same thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Will, what do you got for a score and a prognostication?
My score prediction is Seahawks 23, 49ers 20. My blood pressure 160/95. I think it's going to be close, but as for my prognostication, I'm going to go also a little against the grain. I think Russell Wilson is going to throw for 2 touchdowns. I think he's going to throw for at least 200 yards. I think he's due to bust back out and have a good game, and I think the 49ers said flat out their game plan is to stuff Marshawn Lynch at all costs and make Wilson beat him, and I think he's going to do exactly that.
Yeah. I like it. I like it a lot. Well, it's time for my pick and prognostication. I'm going to go 34-17 for kind of the same reasons Dustin did. I just think it's not going to be as close as people think it's going to be. If you've been in Century League, and all of us that are speaking right now have been, when it's been extremely loud, there's no way you don't feed off of that. And I think the Seahawks win because they're home, but I think they win going away because they're home. And I don't think that the difference between this game and last week, the Saints came back, but the Saints came back because they have Drew Brees. And let's face it, folks, Kaepernick is not Drew Brees. So 34-17 is where I'm at. And a lot like Will, my prognostication has to do with number 3 and Russell Wilson, only I'm going to raise it up a notch. He has 2 touchdowns and 200 yards for Wilson. Well, Will, I'll see that and raise it to 3 touchdowns, 300 yards from Wilson. Now, those 3 might be running or passing, but I think he accounts for 3 touchdowns and 300 yards this week. For the same reason you said. They're going to be keen on Marshawn, and they're a good defense, But if they do that, Russell's going to throw over them. And I think their defensive backfield is maybe a weak point on their team. And I think that's where we've attacked them in the past.
Agreed.
Yep. Works for me.
Works for me.
What's going to be nice, too, is, last week in the Atlanta game, they allowed Russell to call his plays on the field.
Yeah.
They're like, you know what? We need this to happen, dude. Read and react.
Good.
If that's in Bevel's nature, he can allow Russell to do that. If he allows Russell to do it again at parts of the in certain aspects or certain times of the game this week, it's going to be the same thing because, like you said, their secondary we can tear up, especially Carlos Rogers. He was saying he's going to come back and play. He's questionable. His hammy is going to be bugging him still.
Yes.
And so even without Percy, you still got Golden, physical as hell. You still got Doug Baldwin, who Mr. Route Runner. He's clutch too. That guy he makes things happen.
You bet.
So I have, and that nobody's even thinking about the passing game where you throw it to Marshawn.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Slip him out, get a catch, and then he is hard to tackle, especially by a corner if he's out there one-on-one with a corner. So
yeah, incredibly underestimated part of Marshawn's game is his ability to catch the ball in the backfield. No
and
question.
Turbo as well. Turbo's got hands.
Holy shit, it's a 2-minute warning.
And now it's time for a 2-minute warning where we do my favorite game and Andy's favorite game. We play Which is Bigger? Yes. Which is bigger? So we'll start with Andy because if you don't know, Andy you're 6'9", are you not, Andy?
6'7", but close enough.
6'7".
6'9" in heels.
He's that's probably what I was thinking.
What's with all the dudes from out of the country being tall? They must feed them
Canadian
guys fertilizer in Canada and England. We have another friend, Ian, who's like about your same height.
It's true. From England.
Eat your bacon, boys. Eat your bacon.
You know what the problem is? Down here, they play basketball. Up there, hey, you're too big to play goalie, eh? Get out of there.
What's that all about?
What's that all about?
All right, Andy. Which is bigger?
Which is bigger?
Oh, my.
And this has worked for more games than I count, so we're not going to change anything. If you're wondering, if you've been listening to the show before, first off, God bless you for putting up with this one. But second off, you know where I'm going. Andy, which is bigger, the amount of times Kaepernick gets sacked or the amount of interceptions that Kaepernick throws?
I'm going to go with sacked.
All right. Do you want to give us a number? Do you want to be brave?
I want to go 4.
4 sacks? How many
4
INTs?
sacks.
Any
picks.
INTs? 2 picks. All right.
2 picks. 2 picks, 4 sacks.
All right. Dustin, which is bigger?
Yeah.
Which is bigger? The amount of sacks we get on Kaepernick or the amount of interceptions?
I want to say the amount of sacks because I feel like going back to what I said about gap integrity, we're going to have a handle on that. And anytime he scrambles out of the pocket and tries to make a play, if we hit him behind the line of scrimmage, that's a sack.
All right.
So I think that's going to happen. But I already said Sherman's going to get 2 interceptions, so I think he's also going to be hurting in that aspect of the game.
So how many sacks do you think if you're going with 2 INTs?
I'm going to go 3 sacks.
All right. Good deal. Will, which is bigger? The amount of Kaepernick sacks or the amount of interceptions?
Well, every time we do this, anytime I pick sacks, it turns out to be interceptions. And anytime I pick interceptions, it turns out to be sacks.
Oh, yes.
And I'm really hoping we get a lot of turnovers in this game, so I'm going to guess sacks. It's better to have bad sacks than no sacks at all. So.
Will's all about the sacks.
And then you can have yakety sacks, but that's just a whole other thing.
There's really no such thing as bad sacks.
No.
Some sacks is just better than other sacks.
Yeah.
True. Very true.
Sacks is like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's still pizza.
Good or bad, I'm gonna officially predict 4 sacks on Kaepernick today.
Now, will those be good sacks or bad sacks?
Well, bad for him, good for us.
All
so
right, good enough.
It will not be good for him too.
How many INTs do you think we'll get?
I'm gonna go with 2 picks.
2 picks. All right.
So it'll probably end up being 2 sacks and 4 picks. But you know what? I'm okay with that.
But you're okay with that. I'm going to go against the grain here. I think that as the game gets later, and it is the NFC Championship, and there is a trip to the Super Bowl on the line, that Kaepernick is going to try to make things happen. He's going to force it downfield on 3rd and 12, and that's when he's going to get in trouble. He knows that pressure's coming. He's going to scramble. He's going to try to make things happen. He's going to force things where they aren't, and that's why I say he's going to have 3 picks against us. Most, if not all of them, will be in the late, like 4th quarter, into the late 3rd, into the early 4th is when they'll start, and I think there'll be a lot of them. And I think we're only going to sack him twice. I think he's fairly mobile, and there might be a couple where he gets a yard or 2, but I think officially we'll come down with 2 sacks and 3 interceptions. Wow, was that fun or what?
Yeah. Can we amend that and say if he gets an intentional grounding, does that count for a sack for us for this purpose?
I'll give it to you.
All right, just check.
How about if Bruce Irvin hits him so hard that his head goes one way and the ball goes the other? Is that a sack and an interception?
I will be buying Irvin a drink for that if he does that.
Not that that's sporty. That's a fine print. No
Bring on the
lawsuits,
game. I'm ready.
Oh, are you guys ready for this game?
I want to hit somebody.
You wasted some of your time with us to listen to this show, and we appreciate that. And we hope you've wasted some of your time waiting for that game. But the clock is slow right now. Let's get to Sunday already. And let's go ahead and end this so we can go to the game. What did we learn? We learned a lot of wonderful things. We learned 80's really tall for a goalie in hockey. That's one thing we've learned. We learned that San Francisco girlfriends suck, which is not always a bad thing.
Which is why we love them.
Why some people love them. And we learned that the 49ers have a wonderful sense of history, but no sense of the present. So, for our newshound Will, for Andy, for Dustin, this is your self-appointed Reverend Moses of the St. Paul Island Church of Seahawk Positivity, thanking you so much for joining us this week, and thank you for making us part of your pregame Seahawk tradition. We look forward to helping you waste an hour of your life next week. Don't forget to vote for our fan jammies. Enjoy the game Sunday, and go Hawks.
Go Hawks.